A seismic deal just went down in the National Football League, and it changes everything for everyone who is involved. Whether it's the Detroit Lions, the Houston Texans, David Montgomery, Jammer Gibbs' fantasy owners, a lot of sides were impacted by this deal, so we'll break it down and much more on this episode of Answer the Call with Peter Vryonis. Welcome in, everybody, to Answer the Call with Peter Vryonis. I hope you all enjoyed the first couple of videos, and it seems that you have because the support has been unbelievable. So make sure to hit that subscribe button and stay tuned here for more daily content, whether it's the NHL like it was in the first two videos or the National Football League like it is today, because a seismic deal went down. There's also going to be some NBA talk on this channel, and with the World Baseball Classic approaching, really looking forward to that. So going to have some in-depth coverage on that as well. Now, the deal was something that fans may have seen coming, and I'm talking about that because I saw this tweet the other day from ESPN analyst Chris Fowler. Said David Montgomery wants out, and Detroit would want a decent day 3 pick, possibly a 5th rounder in return. Now, they got a little bit more than that, Detroit did. So it was originally reported from Adam Schefter that the trade was for a 5th round pick. So Chris Fowler may have been spot on that front. But it ends up being the Houston Texans getting David Montgomery in exchange for a 4th round pick, offensive lineman Juice Scruggs, and a 7th round pick. So a pretty decent return for what is said to be a backup running back for the Detroit Lions. However, that's not going to be the case going forward with the Houston Texans. He's going to be their lead guy, making around $8 million a season. And just having watched the Houston Texans down the stretch late in the season, this was a team that struggled to generate offense, and you could make the case that their defense, their unit that they were putting out there with Will Anderson Jr., with Danielle Collins, they had such an unbelievable defense. Derek Stingley as well. Like, they were great. And it was arguably the best unit in the National Football League. But when push came to shove, come playoff time, they were just not able to move the sticks. CJ Stroud had 5 turnovers and proved that he's not an elite level quarterback. The book's not out yet. Maybe CJ Stroud can get to that point where he is considered among the elites, because his rookie year was off the charts. And he was already making a case of being a bordering top 10 quarterback. Obviously, the step back in year 2, the step back yet again in year 3. So it was definitely a struggle for that offense to generate and to sustain long drives. Now, having David Montgomery in the fold, I think that helps you out a tremendous amount. And you could just see the production that Montgomery and Gibbs had together in 3 years with the Lions. 2,500 rushing yards and 33 touchdowns. They made arguably the scariest running back duo in the National Football League. We're not going to see that sonic connection anymore with those two guys. It is now Jammer Gibbs' backfield, and I think that bodes well for him, considering that, yes, he is up for a contract extension this offseason. So it's going to be interesting to see how that affects his market and how much money he's going to get paid. But just to put it into perspective, how fairly evenly split this backfield was last season. David Montgomery had 158 attempts on the ground with 8 touchdowns, and Jammer Gibbs 243 with 13 touchdowns. Now you may be saying, oh, that's a pretty sizable gap right there. But if you take a look at a lot of top running backs in the National Football League, Derrick Henry had 307 attempts, Saquon Barkley 280 attempts, and the best example that I could give of a split backfield is the Seattle Seahawks, who are now the Super Bowl champions. However, they did not have a split backfield in the playoffs. Zach Charbonnet was out, and Kenneth Walker proved to be their number one guy. He was arguably the biggest reason as to why that offense had the juice that it did late in the season and was able to propel them all the way to a Super Bowl. They had a great defense, don't get me wrong. But Kenneth Walker proved to be superior to Zach Charbonnet, and you wonder if that split workload was holding one of them back. So in the regular season, Kenneth Walker had 221 carries. Zach Charbonnet had 184. That is real close to a 50-50 split. Obviously, not exactly 60 more carries in a sense, but over the course of a season, that's pretty damn close. So Kenneth Walker proved to be the number one guy, and I'm sure that they're going to have to revisit this conversation heading into the season. Can we afford to keep both? Is it smart to keep both, or should we just use Kenneth Walker the way that he's supposed to be utilized? Well, I think it dawned on the Detroit Lions that we have maybe the most dynamic runner in the National Football League in Jammer Gibbs, and I don't think that's a hot take. He might be the most dynamic runner of the football in the NFL. So they know that, they have that in mind, yet they were splitting carries, giving David Montgomery a lot of the goal line touches. I was never a fan of that, especially as a Jammer Gibbs fantasy owner. I was not a fan of them splitting the workload because I believed Gibbs was far superior. And he is. There's no one with that shiftiness and creativity in the backfield that he possesses. So you got to give him the ball. You got to let him run free, and I think that's what they're going to do. But I don't know if it's the right time to do it in a contract year because his value is only going to skyrocket upwards. So they're going to have to make a decision there on how much they have to pay Jammer Gibbs. And the ball's in his court here. If he has an amazing season and balls out, he's going to get paid. Probably as the highest paid running back in the NFL. So we take a look here at the depth chart for the Houston Texans. Now they have a pretty crowded backfield, and they did last year as well, but not a true number one guy. Joe Mixon was very good in his first year with the team, often injured last season and didn't really see him down the stretch. So Woody Marks and Nick Chubb took over the majority of the carries, and it didn't necessarily translate into a dominant run game. Now David Montgomery's coming in. He's going to be the number one guy. And I think that bodes well for the Texans because that takes a lot off the plate of CJ Stroud. And we saw Nico Collins and Dalton Schultz go out in that playoff game. They were not able to overcome those losses. Now, granted, Nico Collins is a top 10 receiver in the game. Dalton Schultz, you could make a case he's a top 10 tight end in the game. Losing those guys, never going to be easy to overcome. But the fact that their offense looked as bad as it did when those two were out, that's a big time warning sign for me. So this deal that goes down here to get David Montgomery for a couple of late picks and Juice Scruggs, I really think that this is a smart piece of business, and the landscape in the AFC may have just shifted with this simple move right here. David Montgomery's a fantastic player. He's going to be in that Pro Bowl conversation when it's all said and done. There are far more superior running backs to him in the NFL. Don't twist my words here. I'm not saying that Montgomery is a top 10 running back, but he's a lot better than what they were boasting a year ago in Woody Marks and Nick Chubb. So I think that's an upgrade. I think it's also an upgrade in tune for the Detroit Lions because they just get to give Jammer Gibbs the ball a lot more now. And I think that's an upgrade. Getting your best player the ball more is good. So I think the Lions are going to be better off. I think fantasy managers are going to be better off. And I'm talking about the stock here for Jammer Gibbs. It's going up, 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 up. He might be the first pick overall in upcoming drafts. That's how much this is a seismic change. This could be a seismic change for Jammer Gibbs fantasy owners. But in terms of just pure on-field football, I think they're going to be better off for it. And with those picks, maybe they could address some of the holes that they have on their defense because that was their biggest Achilles heel this year. They didn't really struggle in very many instances to put up points, but it was their defense that let them down at times. So I think the Lions are going to be better because of this. I think the Texans are going to be better. And the offseason action getting kicked off here pretty early. Like we saw the Cowboys franchise tag George Pickens. We saw the Cowboys also extend Javonte Williams 3-year, $24 million deal with $16 million guaranteed. So there's There's a couple of moves that have already been made. The draft is going to be in April. Fernando Mendoza expected to go first overall, so a lot to break down when it comes to the National Football League, and I'll keep you up to date on all of it, all of the news that comes out here in recent days. But this was Answer the Call with Peter Vryonis. Let me know what you think of these National Football League videos. I'll do my best to try to spread the wealth around. I want to talk some baseball, some basketball coming up as well. So I want to talk all sports, not just hockey, not just trade deadline. I want to be a little bit different on this page. I have 4 years of broadcasting experience with TSN radio in Montreal. So I'm trying to bring this broader sort of perspective to sports podcasting because I don't think we have enough of it. But let me know in the comment section down below what you think of the David Montgomery trade. Who do you think it benefits the most? And it's fine if you say Jammer Gibbs fantasy owners, because I think that that is a pretty common answer that we're going to get here. But let me know what you thought of the video. Let me know of any video suggestions that you have as well, content that you'd like to see. And I will see you all in the next video. Make sure to hit that subscribe button on the way out.